I got a huge storyline at the age of 16 of, you know, my character coming out being a lesbian, and that was a huge thing where you didn't want to get that wrong.
One of the first ever representations of that community.
Through social media, I look at these girls who are absolutely stunning, and I think, well, if I had work done like they had work done, then I could look like that. But I don't care enough to go and have work done. I read things because I think I'm not having whoever's put that on thinking they're having a last laugh at me. How you look is not the be all and end all.
Some people go to me, Scott, do you not train legs? I'm like, for me, it's so good to see you so happy with Kean now.
When I met Kean, my life changed and it was happy. And we used to meet on Asda car park so that no one could see us.
Oh, very glamorous.
I know, isn't it just? I used to have Macca's and he'd get a fruit bag.
I've never asked you about your dad because I don't know the answer, and it's almost like I didn't want to go there.
As a mum, you really struggle with finding yourself again after having kids. It's weird, it's like you're there, but all of a sudden your whole purpose is making sure that these two children are okay. I think there's such a pressure now. And also, after you've had a child, that bounce back period. It's not about bouncing back, it's about how you feel. And I think that time after having a baby, you're so vulnerable that the last thing you're thinking about, the last thing you should be thinking about is bouncing back.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of Learning As I Go. Big shout out to British Triathlon for making this podcast possible. I've been doing some training. I'm going to fill you in later in this episode. But today we are joined by another incredible guest, Brooke Vincent. Brooke has been pretty much like mine and my brother's sister for around 16 years now. And she's been on a journey from being the well-known face and name that is Sophie Webster on Coronation Street to now being the yummy mummy that she is. And she's achieving so much with a new business, Also Be. There's loads to catch up on. And today you're going to get an insight into the real Brooke. The Brooke that she doesn't really share with many people. This is going to be one hell of a conversation. Sit back, get ready to tune into another life lesson with Learning As I Go.
You've come up in the world, haven't you?
How cool is this? You're like you've gone for a bit of a transformation.
I thought you were going to say I look like my mum. Hi, I'm Brooke Vincent and I am with Scott Thomas on his podcast, Learning As I Go.
Woo! Round of applause, please.
Did I get the job?
We finally made it happen. You've got the job.
Got the job.
But we've literally been trying to make this happen now.
For a
little while, because at first you were a little bit kind of cautious about coming onto the podcast.
Very much
but
so.
For anyone who doesn't know, like we've known each other, and I've been thinking about this for a lifetime, for about 16 years.
16, 17 years, yeah.
And I've literally seen you grow from being the young Manchester actress, Sophie Webster, to being now this yummy mummy, mother of two beautiful boys, businesswoman. Like, it's been a journey, and you've seen me as well.
Yeah, that's mad. That is mad.
The transition, it's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. And, you know, it's bizarre because we're both in a time now where, obviously, you're doing this and it's good and it's nice to watch because you do see people evolve and you've massively evolved. But we're not here to talk about you, we're here to talk about me.
But basically, this is like the relationship me and Brooke have, like, because Brooke's like been like, you've always been like my big sister, even though I'm older than you.
Yeah.
You've always been the one, like, on a night out, Scott, sort your head out. The
Yeah.
next day, ringing me, what you played at last night.
Yeah.
Like, you've always wanted the best for me. To be fair, out of everyone, like in the nightlife scene back in the day, you actually knew both sides of Scott because you would come round to our house with Ryan and you'd chill with us.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, you see him on a night out, but you kind of balance that because you knew the real me, which is kind of rare. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, of course. And, you know, I think something that's spoken about quite a lot is that how, you know, when you're younger and you just fell into obviously like doing your promoting and stuff, but how that changed you as a person. And like, obviously we've got the Ryan connection, but also, you know, Hayley and Scott, two of our best friends, they're obviously brother and sister. So I have seen you and you've seen me in different settings when, you know, you probably, your guard's down a little bit more or you're not really in the mood to have a chat. So it's just like, hi, you okay? Yeah, I'm just getting a coffee. And nothing, you know, there's nothing that's forced or... So yeah, it's nice and it's just nice to obviously be here and it's nice to have a catch-up.
Yeah,
We've not actually had a catch-up.
100%, and that's, I think, a really good point to mention is that, like you said, we're both on a bit of a transition of our life. Like, even the person who just walked down those stairs then, like you.
Oh, me?
Like, yeah, you. I'm talking about you. Like, it was so nice to see you just glowing, and it's almost like you're on this new wave now. But let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Right? And I always talk about this, and I think it was like one of the first times I properly spoke to you, and it was in Rosso Restaurant. I think, did you turn up with Helen Flanagan?
I was with Helen. And, you know, funnily enough, that was the first time I ever went to an event without my mum.
Right.
And
because you were like 16, right?
yeah,
Right.
16. And if you remember, the invitation said free food and drink. So everyone was on it. It was not like now where you could go and get free food.
That.
I was like, obviously I went. But free food and drink. And it was like a huge, huge thing. And everyone turned up for it. And yeah, that's where we first properly met. And then obviously as time goes on, and the job that you then went into, and obviously how our paths crossed with like Ryan and like say with Hayley and Scott, you just see people in different environments. And then we just kind of like went off and partied together. Like even though I was younger than you all, I was like in your era of partying.
Yeah, of course. But the thing for me, like taking it back to like Corrie years ago when it first, well, not even when it first started because it started well before that, but in its prime when you were in it, it was millions of views, right? And I remember being Ryan's brother. Ryan would take us into that world and then introduce us to people like you. But we were like massive fans ourselves of the people that we'd been introduced to. I remember going to the green room at Corrie, sat in there as Ryan's brother, seeing Kean Bryan walk around, you walking around, and then trying to act cool and trying to be normal. But even with you when I first met you, I was starstruck, but automatically I felt comfortable because you were just so normal.
That's so interesting you say that because I felt like that's for so long within Corrie.
Oh, really?
You do. I've watched Corrie my whole life, and you know, being sat there, looking around, seeing Kean Bryan, you know. Funnily enough, I was laughing the other day. Like one day, I'd see like Helen Flanagan asking bloody Roy Cropper to take a selfie of like with her, and then like the other day, I'd be brushing my teeth next to like David Platt. Like it's bizarre and it's strange, and you know, at that time when Corrie was pretty much one of the only running shows that people like was religiously watching, obviously along with EastEnders and Emmerdale. But now we've got so much choice. But back then, it was a real little bubble.
Yeah. And you were a huge childhood star, right? So at the age of 11, you went into Corrie.
Yeah.
And were you the third girl to play Sophie Webster?
Yeah, third Sophie Webster.
So what was it like when you, what was the process like getting that job? What happened? How did you get into it?
I went to drama classes and then basically I went for the job, and I didn't have anybody around me that has ever been in that industry. It was just pure fluke. So I went for the audition. I remember off I went, and then a few weeks later I got in trouble at school. I got a detention, had to go to my mate's house, had to ring my mum and tell her. She was working night shifts at the time. And she went, right, I'm coming to get you. So I thought, oh gosh. So she's on her way. And this was a really good family friend at the time. And she come in and she absolutely went mad at me for getting this detention. Why have you got this detention? I told you to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then went, anyway, you've got the job. And I was like, what? I was like, she was like, you've got the job. And I was like, oh my God, I've got a job. And
I just got tingles there because I remember when Ryan got his job. How big news, like back then to get a job in Corrie?
It was unheard. I didn't know anybody. I was so petrified for so long of losing that because in my head I was the luckiest person in the world, and trying to navigate your teens and everything else along with that was kind of normal but also like really challenging at the same time. But yeah, it just kind of like happened like that, and then just everything
So as a kid, were you always into performing and acting? Was it always something that you wanted to do?
I just did it because it was something that I said I wanted to do, and Mum said, okay, I'll take you. But it was a real struggle for my mum to get me there. You know, it was 6 o'clock on a Monday in the middle of town, and every week was a battle to who could take me. And I remember one point I said to Mum, I don't want to do it anymore. I think we did a show and I was on the stage and the lights was in my eyes and I was only young. I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. And she said, right, go back on Monday. If you don't like it, you don't do it again. She was like, but if you do and it's just the shows that you don't want to do, then just say you don't want to do the shows. So that's what I did, and yeah, I kind of stuck at it, and that's where we obviously met Sash. Like, we've obviously been friends for that long, and yeah, it was bizarre, but I was so lucky. In my head, I was the luckiest person in the world.
It's essentially like winning the lottery, getting one of those roles on a show like that. No wonder you felt so lucky, but obviously you were really talented. You've just got it, Brooke. Like, every time you come into a room, you've got that energy, you've got that confidence.
Thank you.
But you were pretty much growing up on screen as in real life as well.
Yeah.
What was that like in terms of being Brooke Vincent at school, but then Sophie Webster on TV as well?
As a person, the person that I am, I'm quite loud, I'm sarcastic, I like to crack jokes. I know, but I am the class clown. I don't take myself too seriously, and I've always been like that. So, you know, in situations like school, if I was playing up, my mum was like, they will think you're doing that because you've got this job. And I'm like, well, no, I was cracking a joke because da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, I know, but then, so I think subconsciously from doing that job from such a young age, it's made me, hopefully, be so cautious of what's going on around me.
Do you know what? I was going to say that. And you remind me very much of Ryan in a way. And I call it kind of, you are old school celebrities in a way, where being a celebrity back in the days, you had to keep your friendship group really kind of small. You had to have your guard up because people were out there to exploit you. It's not like now where celebrity is like really accessible.
No.
You can, do you know what I mean? I went on the show and I got nearly a million followers. It's like you actually were genuine, talented celebrities. And therefore, the one thing with you that, and I know it's like a big deal, you come on this podcast, showing the real you can be taken in the wrong way sometimes, right?
One of the things that I obviously said when I come in, and one of the things that for me is a mad thing is that I've been media trained from being the age of 11. I've learned kind of how to skirt around questions that you don't want to cause controversy around or whatever it may be. I got a huge storyline at the age of 16 of, you know, my character coming out being a lesbian, and that was a huge thing where you didn't want to get that wrong. You didn't want to upset somebody by something that you've said. So for me to come on here as your friend, I'm still like a bit, because, you know, I can't be my media trained self. You know me too well for that. So that's kind of like half my battle is, you know, Instagram, you can control how much you put yourself out there. And it's funny because I've been asked to do like a couple of like reality shows where they come into the house and see the boys, see me with Kean, and the whole thought of it just makes me shiver.
But you know why though? Because the world's changing, right? And everything that you were taught back then was right for that time, but almost now to be an influencer in this world or even to be a celebrity in this new world, you almost need to give a lot more than you used to. Yeah. And I know that you find that difficult.
Oh, so much.
And I see that in Ryan a lot. Ryan's like, this influencer world. It's
I say it to you all the time, I'm the worst person. Obviously, I know you've got social PR and there's been so many times you'll message me and say, can you do this job? I'm the worst person to work with because my life just gets in the way. I don't prioritise it. I feel like there's more to life than me stood there trying to get my child to stand on one leg with a pizza in his hand saying like, get this pizza. But I do understand it. I do fully get it. But obviously having left Corrie, I left obviously to have my little boy, but I then become accustomed to it because I thought, right, okay, this is giving me a situation where I can get paid but not have to leave the boys, and I can work around the boys and I can do it in around nursery times. So I started doing it a bit more, but even still, like, if it's not real or it's not organic, I really struggle.
Do you know why though? Because you're an actor, right? An actress.
Yeah, thank you.
And actresses, I think, find it really difficult to play themselves more than playing a role or a character. And I see that with my brothers, like our Adam, for example, great actor, and he's getting better now, obviously, but actually being himself in front of the camera is difficult.
Talking to the camera. Yeah. I've spent 17 years learning to not look at the camera.
Wow,
so it's the whole thing of holding, and you know, I look at Instagram and I see people who've got like these families that just look immaculate all the time. Our family, our house is like a zoo. So it's like, there's only one of us that's ever like dressed well out of me and Kean. It's normally Kean. I'm not look like I've been dragged through the hedge backwards, but the kids are my priority. Getting the kids out the house and us being on time is a huge thing. So I don't prioritise time to stand and have pictures in the garden, and he would not stand there and take my picture and say, just look up at the light and get that candy. So he's not got time for it and I've not got time for it. So, you know, we're raising two boys that haven't got time for it either. But I respect people that do it. I understand why people do it. And, you know,
it's a business.
It definitely is. Like, Instagram is a huge advertisement tool, and people are, you know, if you look in depth at people's Instagrams now, there's a strategy now. It's creativity. And, you know, the way that girls are, you know, shooting their clothing, or it's a way of showing your creative side. And I'm all for it. I just can't prioritize it at the minute.
But there's an argument that now that social media is more powerful than TV in terms
100%.
of reach and getting through to people. But let's go back though to, you were on this massive TV show every single night, millions of people watching. What kind of pressures came with that? Like, let's talk about some of the testing moments that you had. For example, you talked about when you played the first ever lesbian role on Coronation Street, or even in soap, or even on TV. It was one of the first ever representations of that community. And you were playing at such a young age, at 16. So what kind of pressure did you feel having to sort of live out that role? And also you were doing it with your best friend, Sasha, as well. Big shout out to Sasha Parkinson if she's watching. And
she will be.
Yes, she will be watching. But you two like were really close, and you had to go and do this storyline. You had to kiss, and you had to do all these.
So obviously Sash, when she got the role of Shan, she was like 17, I was 17. I think we just started college, and all of a sudden we had this huge storyline that we just initially wanted to do justice. You know, it was something that was really hard for me because I obviously had never been through that. I'd never been through feeling really, really nervous or scared, or however, you know, the character was feeling at that time. So for me, I just wanted to get it right, which was huge. But then it can go into something as simple as I'd never had a drink, I'd never drunk, but I had to act drunk as well. So it was like it's, you know, I'm literally like the icing on top of the cake. Like there's so much that goes into the storyline, the research, the writing. Like I was literally just like the icing on top of the cake. And you know, I look back now, and me and Sash talk about it all the time. Like, we had a ball. We was working together. We literally did everything together. And then it was so nice when we'd go somewhere. And I remember a girl coming up to us, and she was like, "Thank you so much." And we was like, I didn't know what. I thought Sash had done like a good like deed on the way in or something. And she was like, "My grandma can relate to you two, and now she's relating to you two. She has somebody to relate to, and she's telling her friends that I'm a lesbian." And now, you know, now young people are just fearlessly unapologetic for who they are and what they stand for and what sexuality they are. And I love that. I love that I've been a part or been around to see that general growth within our children, within our next generation. And I just love that. And I think, you know, being a part of something that was huge just by saying a couple of lines on a Monday night. That's literally all I did.
But that's mad to put it into context now. Like, everybody's quite kind of really open about their sexuality now. Obviously, there's still a lot more work to be done, but it's a lot more acceptable now in today's society. But it was moments like that that kind of paved the way and pioneered that openness and those conversations around it. And it was a huge thing at the time. And even now, you take it for granted how much the world has kind of moved on from then. But in terms of like, there must have been so many highs of being a soap star, right? Obviously, I know that because me and you, we used to go out into Manchester. We were with Brooke Vincent. We get looked after everywhere we go.
I was with Scott Thomas. I got looked after. Literally, like my mate's on the door. Scott, can you get it? He's been kicked out. Great. Is there anyone else?
but as a child, like literally as a soap star in Manchester especially, it was just, we had such a ball and an amazing time, and we lived the high life, going to all the best places, the parties, everything else. But in terms of like the lows and stuff, like, I mean, you won't even know now how much you have to change your life because it's probably become second nature to you. But you couldn't just like nip out to the local shop all the time, or...
There's things that like... The one thing that I will say that I can definitely hand on heart say it's affected is how I am when I'm with my friends. My friends are literally like, all of my friends, big group of girls, leery, loud, nuisances. And we've been in airports on so many occasions where they're getting drunk and we're having a laugh, and I panic. I instantly go into panic mode because I think, oh my God, what if that person thinks, why is she acting like that? And I used to sit there and overthink so many things. And I think it's getting worse as I'm getting older. But I think when I was younger, I didn't really care. I just didn't want to lose it. So I just did everything that they ever said. I was so good. I didn't go out on the streets drinking. I wouldn't, go into clubs underage because I was so petrified that they would take it off me, that I tried my best to be on the straight and narrow with it. Whereas obviously as I've got older, I've kind of like worry a bit more now. I've got kids now and, my partner and some people that, that need me and that you want to make proud.
Do you know what's interesting though, Brooke? And that's one thing that I would say about you, and I reckon a lot of listeners will relate to this. You are an overthinker.
Yeah.
Like, I know, for example, if I ring Brooke and like book you on a job or like arrange this podcast, whatever it is, like even like I felt precious coming in this time, got to be on time, book, because I know that I don't want anything to be off course for you because you are an overthinker. And I know I am, but I think you are on a bit of a different...
I think it's because from 11, I've been told what I'm wearing, how I'm looking, what I'm saying, how long I'm going to be there for, and you just abide by that. So kind of like say when this influencer world kind of took off, I was a bit like, okay, so my American accent that I've learned like loads of times doesn't matter now. Does that not matter? I just need to stand there and say like, buy this soap. But it does it. It's just a different shift. And I am very old school. I am a crank. I don't do well to change. I just like to know where I'm at.
Yeah.
And like I say, coming on here has been huge because I can't give you the scrubbed up version of, so how long have you been in Corrie? Like, what's your favourite thing? Like, the general conversations that I've had over the years. But then I obviously, as soon as you asked me to go on, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I sat at home and I was like, oh my God, am I even interested enough for this? Like, I'm not even interested. I'm the most boring person I know. Like, I'm boring. I have a normal life. Like, I don't have no scandal. Like, there's nothing I can throw at you and be like, oh my God, it was horrendous. Like, I've literally lived...
But to be honest though, but like, I don't think you're boring at all. And I think this book is the best book. And sometimes I wish everybody would get to see this kind of, do you know what I mean? This level of book, because this is you at your best. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind this is going to be an amazing conversation. But it's kind of like, do you think that you care? And I'm the same, by the way. And this is one thing
I know what you're going to say.
Do we both care too much about what other people think?
So right. This is a battle that I have probably daily in different situations, but for instance, I went out the other week and the day after I was driving and my goddaughter was with me and we'd been to shopping and I said, oh Lou, look at the Daily Mail and see if the picture was in from yesterday because that's on my mind. So she looks on the Daily Mail and she finds the picture and I was like, and she said, they're saying, da, 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 da. I went, no, look down at the comments. And she went, you want to read the comments? I went, yep, go down. I can honestly say there is nothing that I've ever read about myself that I don't know. I'm not under any false pretenses that I'm not like the most beautiful person in the world. My legs aren't the most beautifully framed in the world. I'm not. So I read things because I think I'm not having whoever's put that on thinking they're having a last laugh at me have the last laugh. I know. Do you know what I mean by that? So I care about what people think of me face to face. Like if I left here now and somebody thought, oh my God, she was a dick, I'd think, oh my God, I'd hate for somebody to have that perception of me. But in terms of anything else, like I don't care enough to change. Do you know, like I'll look through a different angle, I'll look through social media, I'll look at these girls who are absolutely stunning and I think, well, if I had work done like they had work done, then I could look like that. But I don't care enough to go and have work done. But that doesn't mean that every day I don't look in the mirror and think, God, I wish my lips was a little bit bigger or I wish my ears was a bit tucked in. Do you know what I mean? Because you have your self-hang-ups, but I think we're so cautious in this day and age to try and thrive for something that's not achievable. It's really not achievable. And then you're constantly trying to fulfill something that you don't actually know what you're trying to do. You just, once you've ticked that off, you're on to something else.
Yeah, because with you've always been, and I think that's a good point to make, unapologetically yourself when you're with us. Yeah. Like when you were like one of the boys when you're with us, and I've always loved you for that. But then there is a sense of like the other side, you kind of keep that a little bit guarded, which is right. Yeah. But I just think for me, it's like, and I'm with you as well. Like some people go to me, Scott, do you not train legs? I'm like, do you not think I don't train legs?
You've been skipping leg day.
I train legs once a week, but my legs just don't grow.
They've always been
my
like
legs
that.
have always been like this,
no,
right?
I know.
And I could stress about it and go, I'm going to overtrain my legs and everything else. But like at the end of the day, I go, I've got to accept you can't have it all.
Yeah.
You can't
but
be 6'4" with massive legs.
You can. And the thing is that I learned to deal with things that I don't know how to deal with within humour. So if someone would say something to me that I didn't know how to react to, I'd just throw in a punchline or whatever. And, being pregnant, nowadays when people are pregnant, they're tiny, tiny little things and they've got this little bump. when I was pregnant, I was huge. This is what I mean. This is what you're laughing at. I can't even deal with it because because everyone knew. Because everyone knew how bloody big I went.
No, because you didn't shut
I
up
didn't
about
stop
how big you
eating.
went. Yeah.
I went big, and I acknowledged that, and I'd go and see my nana, and Joan would tell me, bloody hell, your size of a detached, and I'd put that on my Instagram because my worst thought was that I'd go and see someone and then think, oh God, she's put on weight. She don't even know. I like to get there first.
But one thing that annoyed me then, though, Brooke, you said you're not beautiful, and I think you are beautiful. And I think it's that there is a defense mechanism.
I don't.
When you know deep down, and I know now, you coming here today, you are looking amazing. You know, I can tell by the way you carry yourself. I've seen you at your lowest, and I know now, deep down now, you are feeling yourself. And I don't think by you putting it out there to the world, going, I get it's like a defense mechanism, saying it before someone else can. But I think also you should be saying, no, I am beautiful, and I do. And by the way, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I think. It's like sometimes before I come out and do this podcast, I get nervous even now, and I've done loads of them. But I have to say to myself, Scott, you are a world-class podcast host. You are going to smash it today. And I was even saying the way I was going, what are you worried about? You're going to smash it as you always do.
It's how you speak to yourself.
Exactly.
It's important, it is. But I also want to make people aware that it's not, how you look is not the be-all and end-all. And it really isn't. And, I don't strive to be the prettiest in the room. I was saying this to Adam the other day, when we was talking about like acting like within a job role, I don't want to be the pretty girl next door. I want to be the psycho the next door is going to kill. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to be the successful one. I don't strive to be, oh God, she's absolutely gorgeous. I want to be, God, she's well funny. We had a right laugh with her.
Right, okay.
And that's not that you can't have everything.
Yeah.
But I just don't. And I think, cutting my hair was a massive thing because I think, girls want long, flowy hair and it makes them feel nice. And it did for me for so long. And I thought, I kept wanting to cut it. But then I was like, oh, what if I look like a bit boyish? Or what if it's not cool? Or what if it just puffs out? But I did it and now I love it. And I'm like, do you know what? This is me. This is what I stand for. And I'm just more at ease with myself now. I'm in a stage in life where the opinions that matter are my boys, my partners, my friends, my family.
I think that's a really interesting point. And I had this conversation with my business coach recently. I was like, I don't really like sitting down and talking about strategy and everything. I don't actually think that's where I'm best placed. I know what I'm good at and the areas that I'm really strong in. So can I lean into those areas more? It's about being really self-aware of what your strengths are. And like you said, like it seems like you're over the years, you've really narrowed down on what you're really good at and how you want to be positioned in this world. And you're kind of leaning into that. Because sometimes I did a podcast with Danny Simpson recently and he was talking about how Ronaldo kind of perfected his weaknesses and leaned into that and got them even better. Whereas I think there's a lot of strength in actually leaning into just being really comfortable with who you are, what you're good at, and just celebrating that.
It's funny you mentioned Danny Simpson actually, because I looked at the clip on my way in, but the one thing that I realised, he's obviously from Manchester, but he's very mank like me, like I'm very mank. And for so long, I tried to adapt and change that because all of a sudden I was moving in these circles where people didn't sound like me. People didn't speak like me.
Very thespians.
Yeah, very much like everyone was a blank canvas and, we all pronounced our T's and it was all very nice and, like we all speak like this and that's not me. And I'd be like, oh my God, like I am so broad and I'm very, very Mancunian. And my children, like Meg said to me the other day, he was like, oh, I was like, yeah, I can hear that. I was like, you've definitely got that like dulcet tone from me.
But that's what I'm saying, though. This Brooke here, being unapologetically you, is almost like I want the world to see that on a wider scale. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that's only like now, probably within the past 2 years that I've been like that. Because I can't change. People can't, like, obviously you can change how you react to things and you can change yourself in certain aspects, but who you are is who you are. And I'm not going to spend time trying to change things when I've got to put my kids' tea on. I've got to do the washing. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, there are bigger things to life than what Susan down the road thinks of me.
No, I get that. So obviously this confidence that you've got, obviously I've met your mum, Nick, and she's amazing. And you two have been like thick as thieves. Sorry, I can't speak now. Thick as thieves ever since I met you.
Yeah.
And I know you're so close to your mum. What was it like growing up with your mum? Because do you know what, Brooke? And this is me being honest. In all these years, right? I have never, and this is an exclusive on the podcast, I have never asked you about your dad because I don't know the answer. And it's almost like I didn't want to go there. So I had to ask you before this podcast if that was okay to go there. But I genuinely don't know anything about your dad, which is mad.
Do you know what's bizarre? One of my favourite pictures of your dad is a picture with my dad.
No way.
At my 21st. It's so bizarre.
Is that when you were wearing a gold dress?
That's my 19th at Ibiza.
Yeah, I always remember that.
No, this was I had a party. But to you, my dad was like your dad.
Right.
To everybody else, my dad wasn't with my mum. They split up when I was really young. And I knew him, and obviously I know him. It's a hard dynamic with my dad because it was just me and my mum. And I think he saw a lot of my mum in me, which probably used to really irritate him.
Same with my dad.
But yeah, it did, and now even still, it's a work in progress, and we're still trying to find where each other's boundaries are. And you know, I do it now for the kids because he likes seeing the boys, and the boys like going to see him. So it's hard because, like I say, my mum was me and my mum, and I seen. Looking back now, I seen the sacrifices that she made for me. Like I say, getting me to drama classes. Like my dad couldn't take me, so if my dad couldn't take me, I couldn't have gone. Whereas if my mum couldn't take me, there'd be an alternative. She never let me down. My mum never let me down. She never does let me down. She always shows up, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
But I have to be respectful of, you know, the fact he is my dad. I have to be respectful of the fact that, you know, this is on a scale now where people listen. And you know, I love my dad. I do love my dad. And I know that he loves me. I know he loves the boys. So it's just a different dynamic. It's just not the father figure that Kean is to the boys.
Which is interesting, isn't it? It's almost like, going back to what you said, you almost have to accept people for who they are. Like,
yeah.
I love my dad. Well, I loved my dad.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the perfect stereotypical dad. But wow, I loved him.
Yeah,
And what he gave me,
No,
I got so much out of him.
Yeah.
Was he going to be a stay-at-home dad? Was he going to be there every day?
Yeah.
No, he was never going to be that person. But it's hard. It must be harder when you see people like Kean, who obviously are incredible dads, and I see it with my brothers as well. And you do ask the question like,
where's that come from?
Why did it not happen? Like,
why?
And also, I think I speak to my therapist about this a lot. Because I'm a people pleaser, I always want the validation from other people. And he always goes back to being a child, and he says that because your dad probably wasn't around for a lot of it, you're looking for love, you're looking for like where it is.
That's another thing. Like, I was talking to my cousin the other day in the car, my cousin Brian, who obviously, you know, really, really close to. And I said something, he went, well, that's because of like how your dad was when you was kids. And I was like, and as much like I love to go to a therapist. Like I said this the other day. I started going to a therapist, and my mate was like, give me 250 quid a day. I'll come and sit and listen to you. And I was like, but I think now we're trying to find, we try and label things, and we try and find out the reason why we are a certain way is because of some form of trauma, and we try and grasp trauma from all these different angles of childhood or situations that we've been through. When really, you know, it's just okay to be like that. It's okay to look for validation because we're human. You know, you could go to one person and they say you look for validation because you've got two brothers. You've got two brothers that are actors. You wasn't an actor. You went down a different path. But you could constantly look for validation within that. And that's kind of where I was like, okay, the situation that I found most hard was when I found out that Kean was Mex's favourite. And I was like, how is he your favourite? I'm the mum. I should be your favourite.
Wait a second, say again. So Mex said Kean is his favourite?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah, because I asked him. It's evident. You know, I know I'm Monroe's favourite. And
really?
And even slightly, I think I'm losing that as well. But yeah, wow. Mex's favourite is Kean, through and through.
Really?
Yeah. But when I first realised that, I thought, no. And then I had to ask him, and he fully let me know.
To be fair, I asked my dad once. No one in life, he wouldn't say it. I remember sat in my garden with Dad, like, God, who's your favourite? I'm thinking, no way he'd answer it. He went, it's got to be Ryan.
Yeah, literally.
And he went, because it's his firstborn. I was like, no way.
Yeah. But but that's the thing is like, And I always, that for me was mad because I was thinking, well, my mum was always my favourite, but my mum was always my favourite because there was only my mum. And my mum, like I say, showered me with everything, with love, with showing up for me. And, you know, a lot of why I am is because of my mum. Who I am is because of my mum.
But the only thing I'll say about therapy, right, and trying to, I get what you mean. You shouldn't be analysing yourself all the time and everything else. And sometimes, because I'm so self-aware now, I do drive myself mad sometimes thinking, why can't I just be like that? But then understanding why I might be the way I am.
It's helped you.
It helps
I was
me
going
to
to say
kind of
what
like
you just said there.
comprehend it.
What you just said then about the fact that your dad wasn't around and you was looking for, I that hit me. Like I acknowledge that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it gives you that self-awareness to understand why you might be the way you are, and then knowing that it's okay.
It's okay, yeah.
Because you understand it.
Yeah.
So I've officially started my sprint triathlon training, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm loving every moment. I'm out in open water doing swimming lessons, and I'm trying so many different things that I wouldn't usually do, like being out on my bike now, perfecting my running technique. But I think with the swimming, that's the one that I want to focus on today, because that's where I need the most work. And what I've realised, it's all about your breath work, making sure you're getting that breath on that third stroke and not panicking, taking your time. It's not a sprint, believe it or not. It's about taking your time and getting those key disciplines right. But make sure you're asking for help from someone who's been there, done it, or get yourself some swimming lessons. It's all about putting the work in so on the day, it becomes as easy as possible. And if you need some guidance on your training, check out the training app, Training Peaks. It's got everything you need on there. But please keep going and enjoy every moment, because you should be proud of yourself. You're trying something new. I will see you on the 29th of July. So talk to me about your mum, because I want to give your mum a big up in here, because I know how amazing she's been for you. What is your relationship like with your mum?
Now it's chaos because I'm older now, and
is she called Granny Nick
no,
now, or
just Nana.
Okay, Nana. Okay.
Nana.
I was going to say she's too young and cool.
Nana. So my mum, as a mum, was the best mum. Is the best mum for me. She's. There's not a doubt in my mind that I would be sat here now, or I would be in the position that I'm in with family or whatever without the input of my mum. And it was always just me and her. And I just think, not blowing smoke up my ass, but I just think she's done a really, really good job, because since I had children, it's hard. It's hard being a mum.
But put all that to one side, the fact that literally, and this is pretty incredible, the whole time you've been in the public eye, you've not really stepped a foot wrong. You've not really had any, like I said, any scandals. Ryan was in the papers every other week for something at one point. Like,
I don't know what she did. I just feel like I grew up
grounded. You were very well grounded.
I wasn't allowed to be the child star. There was never room. We didn't have time for me to be the child star. Like, I couldn't be poorly at school because she had to go to work. I didn't have time to mess around in the morning. I was putting on what she'd put out for me, because we didn't have the luxury of time or money, or, it was literally, she always says it's coats tails, which is me now, which is literally like our coats getting stuck in the door because we're that last minute. And that's just me and my mum. Like, when I look at our relationship that we've had, we've been in the most bizarrest of places together. And then by pure fluke, we got upgraded to first class on the way back from Australia. And I was like, when the thing beeped, I thought, she's left the bloody tweezers in the hand luggage. I was like, what have you done? She's like, nothing. And they said, we want to upgrade you to first class. Now, that for me was a huge thing for my mum, because that's an experience that we can say that we've done together, that not many people can. And I'd literally want to give my mum the world if I could. If I made enough money to be able to say to my mum, stop working, that's the one thing that I want to do, because she deserves it. She doesn't deserve to have to work as hard as she does, even though that's life. And I get my work ethic from my mum. My mum, there was a time where I was doing the radio I'd get up at 5, do the radio 6 till 10. I'd go and learn to ice skate till 12:30. I'd go to work. I'd then get in a dance class. And I'd get home and she'd go, it was when I was on Dancing Ice. And I'd get home and she'd go, while I was eating my tea, why don't you just go practice bending your knees? I went, why don't you just shut up? I said, because you've not got a clue. Literally, she used to rile me, because she strives for me for perfection, always. She's always pushed me to say, if there's an extra hour, why wouldn't you do it? If you can make money, why wouldn't you do it? And that's in me. I don't have sympathy for Kean when he's poorly, because I never got it. When the boys are poorly, I'm like, right, okay, come on, let's go. If they fall over, right, done, let's go. And that's just how it's been, because
almost
that's
like
all
a
I know.
bullshit attitude to life.
Yeah, it is.
And I respect that, because sometimes I think I'm a bit soft.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a little bit soft if I get a little bruise or something. And Yeah, you are. You're a trooper, aren't you? You just get on with
You
it.
just have to. But
Yeah.
the reason why you have to, and I see it now with the boys, and they're only 2 and 3. If me and Kean are in the same situation and I say no, they go to him and he says yeah. And they just play us off each other, vice versa. But yeah, Kean normally says yeah, and this is why he's the favourite. So.
And do you know what though? For me, it's so good to see you so happy with Kean now. And because one thing I remember about you, Brooke, over all the years was, I feel like you just wanted to be loved. Like
Yeah.
in terms of, I feel like you were unlucky in love for a long time.
I think I was, do you know what I think it was? I always say Kean was the best thing that ever happened to me. It sounds ridiculous because there's been so much more that's been the best thing that ever happened to me. But what I mean by that is when I met Kean, my life changed and it was happy. Not that it wasn't before in any other times, but like, I just remember there being a huge shift. And not that I don't know, but like I absolutely adored him and he adored me, and it was nice. It was nice to have somebody on the same wavelength from like as you, come from the same background as you. Like he literally lived up the road, and when you have conversations about, I don't really know, but conversations that you would only get if your mum was a single parent, or he got that and I got that for him, and we just become two little peas in a pod. And that's just kind of like when I met him, I was so cautious for so long because I was like, no, I'm not going to go out with him. No, I'm not going to go out with him. And then I got to the point where I was stopping myself from being happy because of what other people may have thought. And now I'm like, bloody hell, 7 years on, we've got 2 children, we're engaged, like we have each other's, we show up for each other every day, and it's not easy. It's not keeping, each other happy is not easy, but I'm willing to show up for him as long as he's willing to show up for me, and that's just kind of what works.
When you said that you were cautious about giving it a go because you were worried what people might think, what was the issue there with you and Kean?
Just the fact that he was younger than me. He played football. He was just the thing that he was younger than me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like what the girl's gonna think? Like he's 4 years younger than me. Like I'm old. I've done being 19. I've done being 20. And not that I ever knew he was 19 when I first got with him. No, he's very mature. He's more mature than me. Yeah. But like there was just a lot that I was like, no. And I think because I'd been hurt, like most young girls, you're just a bit more cautious this time, and you just don't really want to put yourself in that position again. So that was a big thing for me. And we used to meet on Asda car park so that no one could see us.
Oh, very glamorous.
I know, and it just literally did. We used to meet on Asda car park.
With a Mackey's by chance?
I used to have Mackey's.
You used to have Mackey's every day?
I used to have Mackey's and he'd get a fruit bag. It's so tight.
Oh my God.
But we did, that's what we used to do. And then just sit and talk, and that
So wait a second,
us...
so Brooke Vincent, the big soap star, is meeting in Asda car park on a date with a Mackey's and a fruit shoot bowl, whatever you call it.
Fruit bag, he had a fruit bag because he was training.
Wow.
Didn't want to eat rubbish.
Amazing. I love the fact that you didn't have any problem
No,
eating that
I
Mackey's.
was not bothered one bit. Can you pass the sauce, please? I didn't care. But, that's what I mean. That's what I loved, because he just got me. And he does, like... he's not one of them people, like I say, he's not one of them people that will stand and take my picture and say, oh, you look absolutely gorgeous. But he's the person whose hug makes everything better.
I was going to say one thing that I think with you two, I might be speaking out of turn, I feel like he makes you feel safe.
Yeah, it does.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I noticed that with you. It's like...
Probably, again, though, going back to the therapy, going back to the validation thing, maybe that's why I am the way I am. Maybe that's why, therapy wouldn't be so bad, because somebody can articulate why I do things the way I do them. Again, within my house, it's very much, or it was, very much like my mum's way or the highway, whereas I can't do that in my house. So that's an adaptation of compromise and asking him what he thinks. And, again, like I say, it's not always easy because you both have different opinions on going forward or what you want for for the children. But yeah, he does make me feel safe, and I absolutely adore him. And I could go as far as to say as I love him unconditionally. I really, really do. The love that I have for him, regardless of any situation that may arise, how he is with my children, the dad that he is with my children, That's a huge thing for me.
Yeah, but I always think you've been older beyond your years in a way. And like even like in your 20s and stuff, and even just knowing you growing up, I felt like you always craved to have that really solid relationship.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? Whereas with me...
Because I never and I didn't have the... This is what I mean, this is what's really funny. I didn't have what I thought family life would be. So, you know, I thought that everyone sat down at 7 o'clock in the morning for breakfast with like orange in a glass jar. And, you know, beautiful. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Literally tried that one time. One of the kids flew the beans all. It was just chaos. Like, it just doesn't happen. But, you know, I thought I wanted something, and it turns out that the messier, more chaotic circus version is just the whole much better.
I keep talking about a business coach, but honestly, I go to see my business coach and he gives me, one of my actions is to meet someone. And he says, Scott, there's no point you doing all this over here. And if you get to the age of like 45 and you've got millions in the bank, but you've got no family and no missus or anything else, he said, I want you to really put some effort into doing that. And it's hard for me because I create my vision board and everything else, and I don't actually put it on there. Whereas recently, and what I found really interesting is that even this weekend, I think I'm okay in my own company and I'm not alone. But what I realised is if I put my phone down and I'm away from my phone, I tend to feel a lot more lonely because you forget when you've got followers and Instagram and even you've just being on WhatsApp.
Communication.
Instant communication. And I think, wow, that's so when I try and get some bit distance between me and my phone, I start to notice that shit, I'm a lot lonelier than I think. I'm not in a way that, oh, poor me. But I've started to think, you know what? I do need someone else to share this with. And
I think, I could work a full day and be absolutely knackered and get home, and I just get to look at the kids, and it just makes it worth it. And that's all it is. It's not that, some people don't choose to have children. Some people choose to be alone. It's a choice. And as much as I agree with obviously what your business coach is saying, I also think that like for me to listen to you then saying like your vision board, that's a huge step for you. And I remember in past relationships where I was like, what have you done? Why, like, what's happened? And you'd be like, I did this, and I'd be like, that's a massive improvement, well done. And you'd be like, no, it's still not good enough. And I think that's, in today's society especially, it's either you have the family or you have the career. Mainly for women, but also for men, that's a huge thing. You can either have the family life or you have the business and the money and the drive and flying off here and flying off there, and it's very, very rare that you can have two and them match. So I think that's a big thing. Yeah,
that's something I'm trying to master and trying to get that balance in life. But listen, we talk about business. You're a businesswoman now. You sat here now today, your little snazzy suit.
I know, I feel very business. I was nearly going to stop off and get a coffee with when they always look, they're professional, don't they, with coffees.
I feel like you look very social PR today. Like we could hire you.
Listen, I am here. I've actually just got a new job, but if not, I would have been here.
Wow. I didn't know you got a new job. I'll talk about that. But let's talk about Also Be. Which is obviously your journaling
so
range.
Planners, So planners. Basically, the reason why I did this is because I did dancing on ice, but at that time, I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I was going to bed at 8:30, and I literally didn't have a spare half an hour that I wasn't working. And that went on for 6 months. So when it finished, I remember being sat in Kean's room. We lived with our parents at the time. I remember being sat in Kean's room and I was like, so do you want to have a baby? Should we get married? Should we move house? Why don't we decorate? Should we go shopping? Like, I just was so irritant and I just couldn't settle. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do something that I love. And I remember I used to love planners. I used to love like filofaxes and paper. I'm such a geek. I know, don't. But organisation, structure, like schedules and like routine is a huge part of me, and that's what I used to love about it. There was no better feeling for me than buying a new planner and filling it in. I loved it. I remember, really funnily, Sash went and worked in America, and this planner that I wanted was £100, and it only shipped in America. So I said to Sasha, I'll get it delivered to you. When you finish filming, bring it back. Don't open it. Don't write your birthday in it. Don't touch it. I want to see it. And remember, she brought it to me. And we was at Centre Parks at the time, and I looked at it and I went, I'm going to have one of these. And I literally said it, and then that was it. I just went with that.
Wow, I didn't even know the story behind it like that. I didn't know you were a proper journal.
Yeah,
geek.
well, it was not journaling. Journaling
Right.
now I think is like,
okay.
Journaling's better
Planning.
now because you can get your feelings out. It's
Right.
planning. I didn't have a planner that started at 5 when I started my day.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Everything started at 9 o'clock, and I was like, people's days now don't start at 9 o'clock. I'm saying this like I'm a businesswoman. I haven't got a Scooby-Doo,
But
mate.
you are though. You're
No,
doing
Scott,
it. You're 3 years old now.
I used to ring the printers, and they'd ask me a question. And I had to learn the phonetic alphabet. I didn't know what I was like, yeah, it's I for igloo. And they'd be like, pardon? And like, I had to learn all these things. There's loads of things that like, it's look and learning, yeah. And you know, I by no means will sit in a meeting and people use all these fancy words that I just don't understand. And I always say, have you got like an Audenshaw version of that word? Like, I need to know what that word means. And I'm not bothered that I don't know, you know, things that people are saying to me. I'm not afraid to say, what does that word mean? The same with like how I kind of parent the boys. Like, I am no means, I tell you now, being a mum is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've tried to dance on ice. Like, it's hard and it's challenging, and it can sometimes really make you question yourself and if you're being a good parent. But one thing I'm not afraid to do with the boys is apologise. I don't worry about saying sorry. I don't say, listen, I got that wrong. When we got that wrong, I'm sorry for shouting because I didn't realise that this happened. Because the last thing that I want is them to think that adults are always right and children are not. You know, there is times where I've been wrong and I don't want them to grow up thinking I can't apologise, I can't say sorry because it makes you look weak, because it doesn't. It revolves situations. And I had a situation with them the other day. They both fight at the minute. And I think my youngest was crying. I said, what did you do? And he told me, Mex told me. And then I asked Monroe what he'd done. And Mex, I missed that bit out. I said, what do you mean? And he like explained, because it's a safe environment for him to explain, because, you know, the last thing that I want is them to be scared to tell me the truth. But I do fly off the handle at absolutely everything. I've got no patience.
Yeah.
And life is just chaotic.
Yeah, but you'd much rather just have the truth.
Yeah.
I get that. So obviously, business is doing really well. You're on the up now. You've obviously learned a lot of things along the way, which is part of business, by the way. I always use the analogy of like a duck in business, like literally floating across the water, but underneath just flapping away. And I feel like if you ever feel like that, it's completely normal.
I think it's normal.
And for anyone listening to this as well, like you said, stay open and absorb as much as you can. But one thing that I really want to talk about, which I think a lot of the listeners will identify with, is your body confidence during pregnancy. Something that you talked quite vocally about. Do you know what I mean? We kind of skimmed the surface before, but obviously you struggled, didn't you?
Hated it. Hated it.
Talk to me about that.
I, as a person, do this. I wear high-waisted pants, I wear a crop top, a blazer, I wear things that are oversized. I don't really care about showing off my figure until I was pregnant. And then I realised I couldn't wear that style of outfit. So I had to completely change my dress sense to fit my bump. And there's not really nice clothing for bumps if you went to the size that I went to. But like I say, like nowadays when women are pregnant, there's a huge pressure on them to be glowing and, oh my God, you're only pregnant from the front and you can't even tell you're pregnant from the back and all this thing. And for me, I didn't know what it was like to have the baby in my arms. I didn't have that feeling yet. So all I could see was these physical changes. And I remember one day being sat on the landing, folding my washing off the maiden or something, and I felt like an ape. I felt like when the ape's boobs like sits on his tummy, like I was literally like boiling up there. I was just sat there, I was like, oh my God, my life's over. And I wasn't like okay with it. I just couldn't get my head around it. I just felt huge. It was the first thing that people saw. And it didn't help that at the time I was pregnant, there was another person in the public eye that was pregnant at the same time, and she was like amazingly glowing, like amazingly put together, and just looked so neat. And it always makes me laugh when it was it Ryan and Lucy's engagement, and they got me on that bloody boat.
Oh, yeah.
I said to Ryan, I said, I'm not coming. He was like, no, you've got to come. I said, Ryan, I can't fit in anything other than my slippers. I said, I don't want to come. And he made me come on that boat. And I was on the tube, like I was massive. Do you remember? Like I was huge. And which is okay. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm growing a human, and I just enjoyed my food and whatever. But I think there's such a pressure now And also, after you've had a child, that bounce back period. I did a huge post on that because I didn't just bounce back, and you get so used to listening to people say, oh, you'll bounce back, you're young, you're this, you're that. It's not about bouncing back, it's about how you feel. And I think that time after having a baby, you're so vulnerable that the last thing you're thinking about, the last thing you should be thinking about is bouncing back because it's hard.
So how did you find some positivity then to deal with that? Because obviously you went through that the first time round of being pregnant. I'm guessing you had a new set of tools from a mindset perspective for the second pregnancy?
No, still went big. It was worse because I used to then finish off his teas as well. Right. That's the worst thing as a parent. Right. And now I've got two. Is that I'll eat my tea, and then when they don't eat theirs, I'll finish theirs off as well. Says that. It's so bad. But no, I didn't. I went huge as well. But I knew that there was an end result. I knew that I could get back to where I wanted to be. So I had Mum-Row in the May, and then in the October, I went back to UP, which is Ultimate Performance, where I'd done my transition. Transition? Is that right? Transformation. And I said to him, look, I kind of want to get myself back next year. I'm turning 30. I want to get back into acting. I want to get myself back into the jeans that I want to be in, the way that my body's comfortable. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did. I worked from October till the June, till my party, just like becoming fitter, becoming stronger. And naturally within that, eating better, you naturally become skinnier and you lose weight. So that was, But
so it sounds like you kind of accepted the process for what it was.
If I have another baby, there's no doubt in my mind I will be at that chippy every Friday because that's me. Right. I just eat. But which is mad because now one of the things that has been affected by my pregnancy is my stomach. So now I have stretch marks on my stomach, and like I'm still learning to be okay with that because it's essentially me but not me, because it's a love-hate thing I've got with them at the minute, and I'm not necessarily ready to show people yet, but I will. But I was like, oh my God, that's because I ate so much, that's because of this, that's because of that. And I was gutted. And then I seen a girl who was like the teeniest, tiniest little thing, and she didn't naturally carry big, and she had stretch marks. So there's so many things that you try and, like, help.
Compare yourself.
Constantly compare.
So basically it sounds like you kind of understood that this is
This
how
is
you go.
months,
This is how you go through pregnancy.
Yeah, it's 9
it
months
might be
of your
different
life.
to somebody else.
Yeah,
and it's okay to go through that, and you know that you will bounce back in your own way, as and when you want to. Yeah,
and you just find this. And I think as a mum, you really struggle with finding yourself again after having kids. And I don't expect kind of like you to understand that, but in my head, it's like it's weird. It's like you're there, but all of a sudden, your whole purpose is making sure that these two children are okay. You don't put yourself first anymore. So when I talk about obviously like the influencing lifestyle, my kids don't want to see me get ready. They don't care whether I've got makeup on. They don't care whether I look cool. They want to go to soft play and they want to get there as soon as they can. So I come last. Like how I look comes last. As long as they're okay, as long as they're having a good time, I don't really care. I see whoever I see. I go and see my nana, and 9 times out of 10, I look like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards. But I just live with that. I just deal with that because in turn, when times when I need to dress up and look okay, I can do that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It sounds like you've really got a good understanding of who you are, and you're just cool with that. And I think one thing to take away from this podcast as well, and I do it all the time, is especially in business and even where I'm up to in life at the age of 34 now, should I have a family? It's like, you know what, stop comparing yourself to other people. In the same way you didn't compare yourself, you don't compare yourself now to other people when they're pregnant. It's almost like everybody's different. Everybody deals with things in different ways, and everybody gets to where they need to be at the right time for them.
Exactly. And I do really believe in timing is everything. I do believe in that. And I think that there's a reason why, look at yourself, for instance, you personally, look at the journey you've been on in the past year. If you had children and you're trying to deal with whatever you was trying to deal with 2 years ago, it probably would have come out as a different, that would have been a completely different outcome. So you just have to take what comes as it comes. Do you know what I mean? There's times, obviously I've gone back to acting, but I got a new agent and I started going for auditions, and I was reading the brief, and every time I read the brief, I'd be like, oh my God, it's an American TV series. It starts filming in Toronto on the 5th of June. I'm like, what am I going to do? Because Kean plays football. I don't know where he's going to be this season. We've got 2 children now. And naturally, I come last. I say it all the time, but in our house, I come last. The boys, Kean, me. And I just navigate around them. So whatever I can do around them, that's what happens, because I'm the mum. That's the compromise that you obviously make. But that's what was worrying, is that going into a new era of like becoming yourself and pushing yourself and going through things. I say to Sash, before she's obviously had children, this is an amazing time to go and do them opportunities, because you wouldn't necessarily have the same outcome when you've got children or you've got a family, or, you know, things have changed.
Isn't it an argument though, that in order to be the best mum you could possibly be and to be the best girlfriend or wife, that you kind of do need to find time to put you first, so that your cup is always kind of full, which is really difficult. It's easy for me to talk about getting up at 5 a.m. and doing my meditating journaling. Like, I know when I put it out there.
It makes me laugh when I see you've been up. I think we might as well just come and live at my house and get up with my kids.
Well, this is what I mean, but I know it's very easy for me because of my situation to live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think it is still important for you to prioritise you.
And I do the gym, and the boys go to nursery and things like that. But at this moment in time, my career needs to navigate around them.
Okay.
And for me and Kean, like I say, we don't know where Kean's going to be this season. For me and him, our main priority is making sure that the boys' lives don't change unless they need to, and making sure they've got their safe spaces within nursery or friends and family. And you just have to. It's just a shift, isn't it?
It's navigation,
growing up.
like you said. It's just navigating.
It's juggling, and it's just constant, and everyone's just trying the best. And I think that's what we need to remember, is that everyone is just trying the best. No one goes out purposely to be a dick.
Yeah.
Well, I do sometimes, but they don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, someone might just be having a bad day, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. That it's just okay to have off days. And
100%.
When we say about being the best mum, I always say, like, I can't be the best mum, the best looking in the room, and the best girlfriend all in one day. Like, I have to prioritise for the day. So I say to Kean, I'll be the best girlfriend next Friday. Cook your tea, and your washing will be on the bed.
Wow, go on. Well, listen, this is the Brooke that I want to see more of.
Oh God!
Like,
don't
honestly,
get out my house. Well, I say that.
Let's use this moment now, and anyone listening to this, make sure you message Brooke and say, we want to see more of this Brooke. The open Brooke, the Brooke who's just unapologetically herself, because for me, that is where you're at your best. And this podcast has been everything and more that I knew it would be. Yeah. And I want to say thank you to you as well, because you've always been there for me.
Oh, don't I'll cry.
Now you have. And she always has been there for me. And you've never turned your back on me when there's many times that you probably could have, especially after a crazy night out. And we've been through a lot together as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to say thank you, man. You've been like and you're one of those friends, right, that you don't have to see all the time.
Yeah, and it's still
just
the
like,
same.
Brooke, you're coming on my podcast this week.
Yeah.
She was like, how far down the list was I, Scott? I was like,
who had to cancel for you to ring me?
I was like, Brooke, it's a
on this
jigsaw puzzle.
Random Monday night.
But honestly, you've been amazing, and you are amazing, and I'm really proud of you, and
mate.
You should be proud of yourself too. And I think you look beautiful today.
Thank you.
And beautiful every day.
I've not seen enough people. I need to go shopping. I need to go to Trafford Centre or something and see more people so they can see me looking like this.
Yeah, you do. We need to get a pat. Should we call Suze a pat?
Can we get a pat,
Yeah,
please?
let's get a pat, please. Oh, amazing.
Thank you.
Now, that is the Brooke that I wanted you all to hear, because I've known Brooke for nearly 16 years now, and she's just so raw, honest, and unapologetically herself. But sometimes, not everybody gets to see that side of Brooke, so I hope you got so much out of that podcast, because I know I did, and I'm just so proud of her. She's an incredible mum, businesswoman now, and an incredible actress as well. She's achieved so much. But thank you to everybody who keeps supporting this podcast. It's growing. It's got so much momentum now on YouTube and all the different platforms. So please continue to follow, subscribe, and share wherever you listen to your podcast. And make sure you DM me as well with any of your takeaways from the podcast, and I'll be sure to share them. But thank you for tuning in, and I will see you again next week for another incredible guest with Learning As I Go.